Hi everyone, welcome to sunny Norfolk. Thought I'd do a little bit of a different video today. Excuse our washing on the line. What a tip our house looks at occasions. What I want to do today is first bit of work with this, the oil tank for our central heating. I thought I'd do some measuring to see how much energy we've actually used in the last year. Okay, hopefully this comes out on camera. So this is my measuring stick, so just a long straight stick. Well, sort of straight, it's a bit bent in the middle, but I've marked it at the various levels of fill. I know that we filled the tank up to full 1200 litres, so that's up to here. That was filled there a year ago, and I know we're roughly down here somewhere, so let's have a look and see how much we do have. That's at the bottom, and there we go. We are some dribbles. So as you can see, we're not that much left, but there's the 600 mark. That's half full. So and there's 400. So 400 to 600, we are 550 litres. 525, something like that, looks like. So yeah, if that's 600 and that's 400 there, 500 would be in the middle. So that's what, 525, 525 litres left out of 1200. So that's 700, 675 litres we've used in a year. That's a full year. And no, I haven't had the heating on for the last month, but you know, I don't think I'd normally have the heating on in April or May. It's only when it's really, really cold. So yeah, I think that's a good estimate of how many litres of oil we'll use on average per year. 675.
So the next thing to do is have a look at the price of oil to see how much it's actually been costing us, or costing us to replace it anyway. So looking at the Boiler Juice website, they've got a very good historical graph of price, and as you can see, the price currently 41.79 pence. That's per litre of kerosene. The most recent peak was at 43 pence per litre, and the price not so long ago, which we're bound to return to soon, 53 pence a litre. Okay, so 675 litres of oil multiplied by the price today at 41 pence a litre, or the price that might be in the near future, because we need to look at the range of what I might be paying over this year, next year sort of thing. So that works out to be £282 up to £357. Okay, so now to work out the price of electricity. Now, I'm with Octopus Energy's Agile tariff, so it does vary. In December, it was 5 pence a kilowatt hour. In January, 12 pence a kilowatt hour. February and March, 7 pence. But April, back up to 14 pence a kilowatt hour. So I think a reasonable average to use would be 11 pence per kilowatt hour. And we're obviously not sure whether prices are going up or prices are going to come back down again, because they are a little bit high at the moment here in the UK. So with a budget of £357 a year and 11 pence per kilowatt hour, that gives us 3,245 kilowatt hours of electricity that I could use extra from the grid, and that would equal the same amount of money that I'm spending on oil. And those extra kilowatt hours are only going to be spent during the winter months, where it's cold enough or the daylight short enough to not power things from solar energy. Now, in a year like this one, 2021, that might be 6 months of the year, but I think normally it'd be more reasonable to guess that you're going to use the heating system and heat hot water not from solar over 5 months of the year. So that's a potential monthly allowance of either 540 kilowatt hours or 649 kilowatt hours. Okay, if we do the same calculation, but for the lower price of oil, 41 pence a litre, that's £282 over the year. 11 pence a kilowatt hour gives us 2,563 kilowatt hours as the lower level of what the allowance is that we could use with electric instead of oil. And the monthly allowance, depending on whether there's 5 or 6 months of winter usage, is between 512 and 427 kilowatt hours. So you can start to see, as the allowance for how much money we're going to spend comes down, then we've got less kilowatt hours in the budget that we could use with electricity instead. So if we try to work out a daily allowance now, that's the same 282 to 357 pounds, the same 11 pence per kilowatt hour, and between 5 and 6 months, depending on how bad the winter is, that's 151 to 181 days. So divide those and multiply those out, it comes to between 17 and 18 kilowatt hours a day, or £1.87 to £1.98 of energy usage. So even though we've got this wide range of 282 to 357 pounds, it's still only 17 to 18 kilowatt hours a day. So I think that's a good calculation to work on, to have a daily average to work with. So if I swapped over to the Octopus Go Faster tariff in the winter, where it's only 5.5 pence per kilowatt hour, then 5.5 pence per kilowatt hour is half the price of the 11 pence that I'm using at the moment. So with half the price, that would be twice as many kilowatt hours that I would have as my budget. So if I was able to run on 5.5 pence as my average price per kilowatt hour, that would give me an average daily usage allowance of 34 to 36 kilowatt hours, but at the same price of £1.87 to £1.98 per day. So that's easy then, isn't it? All I need to do is buy a home storage battery of about 25 to 30 kilowatt hours, so that in the winter I can charge up on the Octopus Go Faster tariff at 5.5 pence per kilowatt hour and get my average price as low as I possibly can. But I wonder how much that's actually going to cost to buy that sized battery. In summary, the first thing to note here is that there's a lot of playing with numbers. So if I'm not careful, I can just be making the numbers fit my situation. So depending on how I'm guessing the price of oil, or guessing the price of electricity, or guessing the number of days in winter where I'm going to need the heating on, the amount of electricity I'm going to use and the price I'm going to spend is going to vary. And if I can buy my electricity any cheaper by using overnight tariffs, etc., and get that average price down, or if the prices do reduce, then obviously I'm quids in and I'll have a higher budget of kilowatt hours to use. But it looks like my daily budget is going to be between 17 and 18 extra grid draw kilowatt hours, in addition to any solar or battery storage that I already have or acquire in the future. So 17 to 18 kilowatt hours extra. So it's great calculating that that's my budget, but is 17 to 18 kilowatt hours enough to heat our home, including hot water? Looking over the winter period, our average kilowatt hours for heating our hot water was 5.6 kilowatt hours. So with a budget of 17 to 18 kilowatt hours and on average using 5.6 kilowatt hours to heat the hot water, you can see that that budget is going to very quickly reduce on what I have available left for heating the house after hot water. So that would definitely encourage me to heat the hot water overnight on the Octopus Go Faster tariff at half the price, and therefore have less of an impact on my budget. And I think the same thing about an air source heat pump. If I had one of those and the COP value could be utilised, whereas I put 1 kilowatt hour of energy into the heat pump but get 2, 3, 4 kilowatt hours of energy out, then could I heat my hot water in theory for between 1.5 and 2.5 kilowatt hours of energy? In which case I could then afford to do it during the day or the early hours of the morning and still make that saving. So there's lots of things to play with here and work out how am I going to do it, and therefore how much am I going to be spending. Now that air source heat pump and whether I really can heat my hot water using less kilowatt hours, that I've got to determine, because it sounds like I should be able to, but I haven't really seen it in practice yet and seen it confirmed factually. Does it or doesn't it heat the hot water? Or in the middle of the night, if I turn the hot water heating on via the air source heat pump, would it use the elements, and will it use more energy and hence not achieve its best COP value? I'm just not certain of those things yet. So what about the test that we did last month, trying to heat the home without using any oil and instead using an electric fan heater and an oil-filled portable radiator? Well, on average we used 10 kilowatt hours a day on those two devices, and they were heating our central hallway and lounge. But what about the other rooms that we weren't trying to heat last month in the test, like the bathrooms? Maybe that'll take an extra 3 kilowatt hours of energy. And our daughter's bedroom, that will probably take between 3 and 4 kilowatt hours extra to heat. The kitchen, maybe only 2 kilowatt hours, because that is quite sun-drenched, and obviously if we're cooking in there we don't need as much heat either, and that then leaves also 2 other rooms that we don't heat normally at all. So that looks like I need a budget of 19 kilowatt hours, and that's without heating hot water. So I definitely need to use either more efficient heating devices or pay less per kilowatt hour for my electricity. And what this is telling me is that I am definitely going to be reliant on cheaper energy tariffs. But I guess that's exactly the same as you're dependent upon oil prices going up and down. So it really does make me think about trying to be energy independent, which of course is harder to do in the winter. So what are my next steps? Well, I'm definitely still waiting for that quotation for an air source heat pump with zones to make it efficient, and I still want to carry on doing some testing using these kwhs devices. So just element type heaters, so oil filled radiators and electric fan heaters. Try and see how many kilowatt hours it takes to get this house heated everywhere up to a really good temperature. Solar investigation, I still want to see how much more I could add, because the more solar I add, the more energy independent I am, and I'm not as reliant on cheaper overnight tariffs. Battery research, yep, definitely need to do some more research into that. How much battery, how big a size do I need for winter to be able to charge up overnight, and how much could I justify? Because even with a 5 kilowatt hour battery now, I'm not using all of it at all during the spring and summer. So if I had an oversized one, then those extra 6 months of the year, I would hardly be using the battery at all. Would that make sense? Would it make sense to have a small wind turbine to top the battery up overnight, or to pick up the load overnight? Should I go for solar thermal? Maybe I should dig up the floors and actually put in an underfloor heating system in. Sun amp? Should I use a heat battery? Would that make sense? I would get less thermal loss on the hot water, so maybe that would be a more efficient way of doing things. Extra insulation, again, that would help, and maybe draft reduction. Maybe I should go around the house looking for drafts and seal them up. Definitely lots to think about. So the idea of this video isn't to give answers, it's to start a process to give food for thought. And I thought by doing this rough calculation to start with, it gives me a starting point of what I'm aiming at. What do you think? Am I going about it the right way? Are my budgets realistic? Have you done the same? What sort of budgets are you using? Really would like to hear from you in the comments below, and start a discussion to try and work out how viable is it to change from oil or gas across to electric, and does it really work, and how many kilowatt hours do you need?
Okay, so we better leave it there, I guess. Thank you for watching. As always, I hope there was something there that you found useful, and come back for some more videos on solar, home batteries, electric cars, all that good stuff. Anyway, thanks again. See you again soon. Bye for now.